Now we shall start our deliberation on Unit 7, Center-State Relations. Okay? In the center-state relations, so far as policy formulation, policy planning, and policy implementation, it is highly essential to have center and state relations. So, the center-state relation, what does it mean? It means the working and sharing of roles and responsibilities in pertaining to any activity between center and its unit with a federal system. You know that the federal system where the distribution or division of the duties, responsibility between state and center. So, in our country, India is constrained by regionalism, religion, uh, uneven development, demand for autonomy, identify politics, competing political interest, caste and race. These are the regions responsible for center-state relations. So, the center-state relation in a country have always contained these seeds of conflict. Why? In some matters, they may not agree. In some matters, they are agree. So when they are not agreed on a particular aspect, conflict arises. So far as education is concerned, education is a welfare activity. So the common obligation of a nation must call for a joint endeavor in policy making and policy implementation. As India is a big country, it is highly essential that neither state nor center alone can manage the uh, implementation of policies throughout the nation. Follow my point? That's why it is essential to have good relation between state and the center for the better implementation of the education policy. So far as the in nation and the state relationship, we must focus on the historical perspective. What relationship now we see after constitutional provision of the amendments 1976, that type of relationship was not existed still. What type of relationship was existed we must know. The relationship was not so proper relationship between center and state before independence. So uh, before 1935, the Government of India Act, there was no center-state relationship. Some of the features of the present mechanism can be traced to the pre-independence period. The center-state relationship in education present a variety of picture. The period can be divided into two phases. One is the pre-independence phase or period, and another is post-independent period. The center-state relation during these periods, pre-independence and post-independence, were different. In the earlier stage of modern independent period, that is just the beginning of 19th century, there was neither a proper center nor a proper state. Because the amendment was not made. To be very clear, in the 19th century before, there was neither proper center nor proper state. Then the study of center state during British rule, there was neither any national policy on education nor national system of education. Was there any policy while British government was administering India? No. After independence, we have national policy on education, but before that, no national policy on education. Even there was no national system of education. So, study of the center-state relationship didn't have any perspective for this reason. Then we'll discuss so far as the historical perspective is concerned, the crown and the provincial relations during the British rule in India, the process of concentration of powers either in the hands of crown or the representatives of the crown in India under British rule is called centralization. It was in the hands of the representative of the crown or only crown. So it was not in the hands of, it was not divided. Then again, when the crown or representative of the crown or even the native rulers at the central government level did not take any interest in education, it was called decentralization. So, during British rule, it was centralized when it was in the hands of crown, and nobody was taking interest in the field of education. That's why it was called decentralization. So the pre-independence period again divided into several phases. During the period of beginning the Regulatory Act 1973 to 1833, the East India Company grew in strength. Strength means its business expanded and tended to accumulate more and more powers of administration. Many places it acquired and extended its administration. Okay. But the period before 1833, it was characterized by total absence of central control at the Court of Directors of Education in London, played a little role in the development of Indian education. I want to share one thing that East India Company extended its administration and occupied many places to develop its business, but little emphasis was given or no emphasis was given in the extension of education. Okay, for the natives. The provincial governments were autonomous in making their own educational policies and programs. And at that time, during the regime of East India Company, there are several provinces. Today we tell that as states. So these provinces, they had their autonomy and they framed their policies. Then provincial government, they were making their own educational policies and programs. Even though the directors were compelled to accept some responsibility and incur some expenditure, for central direction was created for this purpose. Then the general committees of public instruction that existed in the province didn't have any counterpart at imperial center in Calcutta. So in province there were directorates, but they didn't have any counterpart at the imperial center in Calcutta. That means there was no coordination in the center and the province. In the Charter Act of 1833, which transferred the commercial East India Company into a governing corporation, initiated the placement of educational powers into the hands of the crown. The central government was granted full control of Indian finance, and the act led to centralization of administration in all spheres, including education, in such a way that directors of public instruction needed the sanction of imperial government at Calcutta for every expenditure on education. The situation was changed, and here the centralization continued rigidly until 1854. Centralization was continued up to the Woods Dispatch. Then the Woods Dispatch paved the way for relaxation of the rigid imperial control over education. Education was under rigid control up to the advent of Woods Dispatch in the year 1854. Then Wood Dispatch brings some certain relaxation in this rigid imperial control. That the center of interest in education now shifted from London to Calcutta. Previously, before Wood Dispatch, it was the center was in the England, now London. Now, Wood Dispatch took initiative to shift it from London to Calcutta. This situation continued despite the complete takeover of the Indian administration by the British Crown under the Government of India Act 1858. Gradually, it took place. Then, a long phase of decentralization of powers in education initiated by Lord Mayo. Lord Mayo in the year 1870. The British authorities became aware that the extraordinary and inherent difficulties in devising a system applicable to the whole of India. The British authorities in the year 1870 realized that the extraordinary and inherent difficulties in devising a system applicable to the whole of India. They were thinking that the education for the whole of India, and thought that it is difficult to apply a system for the whole nation. The Act of 1861 provided that, except in matters of all Indian concern, provincial governments should have the responsibility to legislate it in accordance with local needs. Centralizing power was thus put in reverse gear. There was, however, no clear demarcation of powers between the center and the province. I think that you understood this point, that the Act 1861, it realized that the centralization of power cannot provide education to the whole nation. That's why it is essential to decentralize. And though it was realized, but there was no clear demarcation of powers between center and province. Okay. Next aspect is that while the centralization are confined to executive and legislative powers and coordination policy, a few departments including education, health, police, prison, and etc. were handed over to the provinces. Though centralization was confined to executive and legislative powers and coordination policy, others, that is education, health, police, prison, these were handed over to the province. Some powers was in the hand of some powers were centralized and some power were handed over to the province. Okay. Then in the year 1882, sharing of revenue and using what was called divide heads was attempted in place of assignments, and the scope of these divided heads was expanded in 1897. The Indian Education Service IES during the time of British administration ଆମର ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ କଣ ଅଛି Indian IAS Indian Administrative Service, but during that period it was Indian Education Service was created. No, sorry, Indian Education Service, it was only meant for the education, to provide education service. It was created in the year 1897 to facilitate central recruitment of personnel in England who were more responsible to the imperial government and had no serious adverse effect on the powers of the province. Then the personnel of Indian Education Service, they will facilitate central recruitment of personnel in England. They will be responsible for the imperial government and it had no adverse effects on the powers of province. That means these personnel had no impact on the provincial power or the power exercised in the province. In 1898, Lord Curzon became the viceroy in India and he established the over centralization policy in education. Again, Lord Curzon established over centralization policy, even though for a brief period during his tenure, this policy was neither pursued vigorously nor abandoned altogether after his exit. However, the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which later became the Constitutional Reforms Act in 1919, it clearly broke the legacy of Curzon. Lord Curzon's legacy was completely abolished after the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. While all earlier devolutions of resources were from one level of executive to another, the Act 1919 brought about the statutory distribution of powers and responsibility between the center and the province. Really, in the Act 1919, it brought a statutory distribution of powers and responsibility between the center and province. Here the power became decentralized. The provincial governments began to exercise dominant authority over education. As there are stable financial relations between center and provincial governments, education had the good fortune to receive much larger finance than it did in the earlier period. Then we can say that the Act 1919 really gave the power to the province autonomy to implement the programs perfectly in the province. And here also financial assistance, province also got financial assistance from the center. Okay. Then the grants in aid system, which still exists today. Today we have also grant in aid system and that was introduced during British administration. Is in a sense of legacy of that period. The central government made generous grants to education which were unknown in the history of Indian education either before or after. So, history also tells that after 19th century, before independence, there was also the center and province relationship in education. Then the Government of India Act of 1919 introduced diarchy in the province, placing education under the Indian ministries. With this act, center-state relations began to clarify. Here in before 1919, the layers for decision making in education were varied, resulting in unclear center-state relations. We have already discussed that the crown in England represented one level of central authority, the representative. The viceroy in India represented the level another. When education was transferred to the Indian ministers, the ministers in Delhi represented another level. At the provincial level, Indian officials and the representative of the viceroy in the province represented two additional layers of authority. So, the financial relationship in education between center and states started the definite structure and more meaningful only from 1919 onwards, when education was handed over to the Indian rulers under diarchy. So that means the Act of India 1919, it made certain development in the field of education by making center-state relationship in framing educational programs and implementation. Then uh, we have the Government of India Act of 1990 laid the foundation for constitutional development in the country, resulting eventually in the federal form of government. So you must remember the contribution of the importance of 1919 Act, 1919 Act for the development of education in India. Under uh, the education is not only provincial but also a transferred subject under this hierarchy, and constitutionally the center was not to exercise any control over transferred subject. Then it was not only provincial but also a transferred subject. Why it became transferred subject? And constitutionally the center was not to exercise any control over transferred subject. The finances of the province were crippled by contributions payable to the central government under what was called the joint purse system. Education received less financial support from the center and from the provincial governments as well. So gradually, uh, by 1921, education became totally state responsibility. In the year 1921, education became it became a responsibility of state. The control of the federal government on education was reduced to such an extent that it led the Hartak Committee to comment that education received an unfortunate divorce from the government of India. Hartak Committee is famous for what? It recommended the issues of primary education, 1929. Then the control of federal government on education has reduced to such an extent it led to Hartak Committee to comment the education received an unfortunate divorce from the government of India. Again, the government of India continued lack of interest in educational matters resulted into almost no expenditure in that arena. Uh, Again, special grants to education were also discontinued. The finance department acted as a spice on transport subjects like education, either vetoing or rejecting proposals made by the ministers. Thus, education sector suffered a lot during under directive period. So, after this period, 1919, education suffered a lot because it suffer from getting financial assistance. Then we have the education sector suffered due to inadequate funding. The need for central intervention became evident. When education was under the control of state, it is suffer from getting the fund. So again, it was necessary to have a central intervention for its development. The Central Advisory Board of Education was revived in 1935 but did not improve the situation significantly. With the Government of India Act 1935, the distinction between reserved categories and transferred subject both disappeared. Then uh, education was classified into two categories, federal as well as provincial. Then we have this Act 1935 marked the beginning of the efforts of the central government to take an interest in education and concrete provisions. Then we can also have this clear thing that the while the Act of 1990 made education a subject that was partly all India, partly reserved, partly transferred with limitation, and partly transferred without limitation, but the Act 1935 improved this position, which was made during 1990. Then the Constitution of India made a clearer classification, retaining, however, the basic feature of the federal structure introduced in 1935. It also included elaborate provision for devolution of financial powers to the states. So, you see that how the different acts during the time of British administration has brought improvement as well as uh, creating situation for the lowering the status of education by not giving grants. Then we have, with the adoption of the constitution, the place accorded to the education in the federal framework drastically changed. So far as the center-state relationship is concerned, the constitution made three lists. One is union function, second is state function, and third is concurrent function. So you are now informed about the center-state relationship, that is education is the power of center and education is the responsibility of the state, and when education is the responsibility of both, it is concurrent. Are you clear? Then education is placed in list uh, 1 union function, 2 state function, and 3 concurrent function. So institution placed under union function, what are the function of union? The central universities, institute of national importance, union agencies, institutions for professional, vocational, and technical training, coordination and determination of standards in institution for higher education. So what I told you that in the previous lessons, previous units, we have learned that the central government is responsible for providing financial grants to central universities, institutions of national importance, union agencies, coordination and determination of standards of higher education at the central level. It comes under the first list union function. Then thus institution placed under the concurrent function, what are the vocational and technical training of labor workforce? Then we have the increased role for the center in education has been justified on various grounds. What is the role of center in education? That was also justified on the grounds that the adoption of planning as the technique of development and the formulation of 5-year plans by planning commission covering both central and state development activities. The planning commission made 5-year plans taking into account the requirements of both center and state. The institution of large central grants earmarked for specific education schemes and the political party being in power at the center and in the states. Then the center interventions in education in three ways. The central government has its own central sector for education, which includes, you might have remembered that, the sectors listed in Union list 1, which I told you. The central schools, the Navodaya schools, the institution of national importance like IJR, IIM, IITs. Okay. In the first class, perhaps I told you about all these things. Very many concepts are interrelated and you can understand better. So then the Regional Institute of Education under NCRT, national scholarships, programs of University Grants Commission, UGC, such as creation of centers for advanced studies and so on. Administrative as well as financial functions of this sector are the responsibility of the center. And again, second is there is centrally sponsored sector, the responsibility of which the states do not accept on their own. There are some schemes, projects, it is not directly accepted by the state. The center could persuade the state government to accept the responsibility of their implementation. Can you tell me what are these? Remember, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, is it state project or central project? It is a central project. Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, universalization of primary education. And here center will persuade state to accept this project. Okay. Center has planned and formulated policy and persuade the state to accept the project to universalize primary education in each and every states of India. Okay. The activities in this sector designed and developed by the center. Whatever activities are taken into consideration that has been by the center. Uh, like Operation Blackboard scheme, midday meal scheme, promotion of Sanskrit, Hindi in non-Hindi speaking states, promotion of students tour and so on. These are the programs. The responsibility is borne by center and center persuade state to carry out this project in their area. Okay. The central government provides the funding for these activities. The SSA project is operating in all states of India, and India is giving, that means central government is giving grants for implementing this project SSA. Third one is there is centrally assisted sector, which includes program in which the center is actively interested, though they are embodied in state plans. The state accepts the financial responsibility for this sector only partially. Inclusion of children with disabilities in schools in one such activity. You know the very high sounding program, that is inclusive education. This is a program of central government, and central government has persuaded the state to implement this program, inclusive program in all schools of your state. The inclusive education is to include the disabled children in a normal school. Okay. So, government also, central government provides funds for this education to state. Then we have the constitutional amendment made in the year 1976, which brought education to the concurrent list. I have already told you in the previous class. So, in this concurrent list, center and state are linked together, coordinated work together coordinatively, and center will provide financial assistance to state to implement the program in their states. Then we'll learn about the federal structure and devolution of resources. In a good federal economy, both the federal government and the provincial units have adequate resources. This has not been the case in India. The states have very few elastic revenue source except for the sales tax and excise duties. Hence, the constitution envisages devolution of resources to the states from the center. And the system in India makes a sharp distinction between plan and non-plan. Plan and non-plan expenditures are there. Plan, it is for the development, and non-plan for maintenance expenditure. The process of sharing the resources by the center and the states takes place through the planning commission. Planning commission is a statutory body appointed in once in a 5 years, and the uh, it takes the plan expenditure and maintain the expenditure. That means the planning commission gets its authority of assessment of requirements of the center and the state only by convention, and its recommendations are not strictly binding on the center or the states, but are normally complied with in view of the commanding influence on both the governments. So now we should understand that when planning commission uh, is organized once in a 5 years, now, then it provide grants for both state and central programs. Budget is prepared through this plan for the central project as well as the state programs and schemes. The Planning Commission makes its recommendation largely under Article 282 of the Constitution, provision for discretionary transfers. On the other hand, the Finance Commission assesses states' claims on maintenance or non-plan expenditure and makes recommendation on the distribution of resources under Article 275 of the Constitution. These are all about the constitutional provision that has been made for the center-state relationship, and for center-state relationship, so far as financial assistance is concerned in the field of education, 5-year plans, budgets are prepared, and financial assistance is provided to the states by the center. Then we have the Finance Commission is expected to consider the requirements of the state governments under the revenue accounts to meet expenditure on administration and non-plan commitments or liabilities, provision for wages and salaries of the government employee, and commitments on interest charge on debts. So, Finance Commission also plan for the requirement, meet the expenditure of administration and non-plan. Non-plan means the maintenance aspect. Then the salary of employees and the interest charge on debts. So next we will discuss about the education and the Constitution of India. You know that in the Constitution of India, education is in the concurrent list in the year 1976. The Constitution of India, and it is in the concurrent list in the 7th schedule of the Constitution. So education is incorporated in the 7th schedule of the Constitution and also in the chapter on directive principles of state policy. In Indian Constitution, education is incorporated in 7th schedule and in the chapter Directive Principles of State Policy. According to the constitutional division of powers, education was included in the state list, but powers were given to the union government to deal with educational institutions which are directly under control of the national government, institutions for scientific or technical education, which are declared as institutions of national importance. These are funded partly by the Government of India and agencies for professional or vocational training, promotion of special studies or research. So after the constitutional amendment, both center and state relationship in education properly working, and constitutional provision regarding education are not confined only to the entries in the three lists. What are the three lists? Union list, state list and concurrent list. So, under part 4 of the constitution, provision for free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years and promotion of educational interest of the weaker section of the society and in particular of the SC/ST are the two vital responsibilities of the state, which include both the central and the state governments. I think from this example, you could understand better that how center and state are related in the matter of education. Okay, these are the big programs. The policy has been framed by center and implemented at each and every state of the country, and center provides financial assistance for the implementation of that education program. Okay, I think you are well understood the center state relationship. Next, we will discuss about education and finance, center and states. When state government mutates and executes an educational plan, it also considers the financial involvement in it. When we plan for the education development, particular plan for for education, simultaneously the financial aspect immediately comes with that. Formulation and execution of state plans are made within the framework of the national plan. In formulating state plans, the discipline suggested by the center, two types. One is financial, in the sense of conforming to ceiling of states and central resource settled in consultation with the center. Then substantive, in that broad features like targets, priorities, type of schemes, etc. have been required to fit in with those at the national level. That the grants given by the central government to the state for educational purpose also divided into two broad categories. Grants for schemes which um, they very nature have to be implemented by the states under central control or supervision, that is midday meal, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, operational blackboard, integrated child development scheme, that is ICDS, are the major centrally sponsored scheme implemented with state government. For this, assistance are provided by central government. Then grants to assist states in carrying out schemes which are fully within their executive control. Significant projects are Charwa project in Bihar. It is completely the responsibility of Bihar state. Then next is, that is, the center provides financial support to the state primary education in the form of matching grants. What is that matching grants? So the UGC employees in our state and other states also, UGC is a body of central government. It provides 80% and state government provides 20% of the expenditure of salary for the UGC teachers in higher education department of the state. Either it is university or the colleges. This is called the matching grants, 80-20. Okay. Then in the field of education, the central assistance is applicable to all the state government institution, and a working partnership between center and state has been established in this field. In this way, the relationship between center and state has been established. Then every state should get its due share of the amount available with the central government, and the backward states should be duly promoted by additional grants and other resources from the central government to minimize their gap area. You might have heard uh, the states which are backward, they are getting special grants from center. Have you heard this? Okay. Next is that we have a role of central government in the financing of education. Many things we have covered on of this point. Since independence, the central government had started spending increasing amounts of money on education because uh, the leaders, the political leaders during the time of independence and after just independence, they realized that if many people of India becomes illiterate, then no development of the nation is possible. That's why education was given topmost priority among all fields of the nation. Then the contributors of the central government to state governments have increased substantially over the years. Why the assistance increased by the central assistance for the state increased because of the following reasons, and the central has given more assistance to the states because central government must assist the state in realizing the constitutional provision for providing compulsory primary education in the age group 6 to 14 years. You might have remembered the thing that when in the 1950, when constitution was framed, article 45 of that constitution uh, gave importance on the free primary education, universalization of primary education, and it must complete within the 10 years from the commencement of the constitution. That's for that reason, the to realize that constitutional provision, center gave more financial assistance to the states to realize, to materialize the goal of um, primary education within the age group 6 to 14. Throughout India, within these age group, students must get primary education. Center must assist the backward states for providing better educational opportunities. It has large resources for collecting finance, and uh, funds will be should increase because funds must be utilized for providing equality of educational opportunities. All these were the priorities during that period. For to realize all these objectives, center must provide financial assistance to states. Then the center also assists the states for educational development in three ways: performs educational function through NCRT, UGC, central universities, central schools, organization, etc. As there are different central government agencies to materialize the education programs like NCRT, UGC, in central universities and the central schools. So definitely center will provide financial assistance. And the second, sponsor schemes fully financed by it but implemented by the state. There are different programs that were sponsored by uh, center and will be implemented by state like SSA, midday meal, ICDS, etc. Third point is it partially finances some programs planned and implemented by the state government like Mahila Samakhya. The program particularly planned by the particular state will bear some financial burden and center will provide some financial assistance. It is partially, not fully. Then we will discuss about role of state government in financing educational plans. Role of state government in financing educational plans. In that, education in India is a state responsibility and the bulk of educational expenditure, near about 65% is borne by state. The Finance Commission transfer adequate resource at the end of each plan to each state under share in income tax, share in excise, and lump sum grant in aid. Center Finance Commission after each plan period, at the end of the plan, provide assistance in the share in income tax, second share in excise, and some share in in the form of grant in aid. The state grants to local bodies on account of primary education depend on some aspects, that is necessity of frequent revision, basis to be adopted, that is state grants to local bodies on account of primary education should be based on a combination of the proportional grants, a special grant for backward areas, and specific purpose grant. State will provide grants to different locality in the form of proportional grant, special grant for backward areas, and some specific purpose grant. Whether state grants should be statutory or discretionary grants for all primary education, whether voluntary or compulsory, that should be statutory. Then state will provide grants whether grants for compulsory education should be different from those for voluntary education. Granting aid for compulsory education should be necessarily be at a higher rate than those for voluntary education. Next is the role of the center and state in education. Constitutional provision of India reveals that the central government is expected to play a significant role in the field of education. Though the Minister of HRD, Government of India, discharge the major responsibility in the field of education on behalf of Government of India, still there are other ministers at the center which also perform functions in the field of education. Then the major functions performed by MHRD, Government of India, what are these? First is planning. Educational planning is a part and parcel of the total planning of the country. Okay. The central government determines targets, prepares the educational plan to be implemented by the country as a whole. What we have already discussed in the first unit, national policy, framing and formulation of national policy. So the center is solely responsible to prepare for the total planning of education for the whole country. Then it prepares targets and also take the responsibility to be implemented by the whole country. So then educational reforms is another function. From time to time, the Government of India has set up commissions. We have already discussed all these things from after independence, many commissions have been framed in our country, which have gone into various aspects of education at different levels and have provided valuable recommendations and suggestions like University Education Commission on Higher Education, Secondary Education or Mudaliar Education Commission, and that is on Secondary Education, Kothari Commission on all aspects of education, and National Policies on Education 1968 and 86, and we have other commissions and committees. They provide certain recommendations, and these recommendations have further been considered by the experts and states requested to implement the recommendation on the expert bodies. Then organization. For carrying out educational plans, the government of India has set up institutions like All India Council of Technical Education, National Council of Education and Research Training NCERT, that provide guidance to state in the field of technical and school education respectively. You have already informed that similarly in the like NCERT at the state level we have SCRT at NCERT at the central level, we have SCRT at the state level. So direction, then the central government also directs and guides the state government. Central, so far as direction is concerned, central government directs and guides the state governments, local bodies and private enterprises so as to encourage education on the right direction. This is being done by the ministry through Central Advisory Board of Education. Then, so far as the center-state relationship is concerned, we will focus on the point of control. As the state governments require financial help from the center, supporting their educational programs, they look for grants to the central government. The central government allocates suitable grant to the states, local bodies and private agencies. Okay. Thus, it exercises, by providing financial grants, it exercises considerable control on education. Equalization of educational opportunity. So in this context, ideally every government is wedded to the establishment of an egalitarian society, and therefore the government of India has taken many steps to provide equal educational opportunity to the weaker sections of the society. So for this, central government has initiated a large number of programs in this direction. So in each and every state, to uplift the weaker sections, Government of India provides plans and financial assistance. Then so far as pilot project is concerned, the Ministry of HRD, Government of India has taken a large number of pilot projects like rural universities, regional institute, curriculum reforms and textbooks, etc. Then we have administration of education in the union territory and centrally administered areas. Clearing house functions. Minister of HRD from time to time brings out useful information on various aspects of education. It publishes some educational journals which have proved to be very helpful in disseminating information in the country. Liaison with international bodies. The Minister of Education carries out some programs with international cooperation. UNESCO is one of the agencies through which these type of program are organized. Yesterday, I also discussed some programs are launched in the state with the help of international agencies, as well as NCERT, the national body, also organized different programs by the help of international agencies. Then opening of central universities. it is the Minister of HRD directly responsible for running of a few central universities, national library, museum, art gallery, central schools, Navodaya Vidyalayas, Bal Bhavan and other institutions. Then promotion of cultural institution, Minister of Education also takes suitable steps for the promotion and propagation of cultural contacts in intra and inter-country levels. So, in this situation, I want to inform you that in each and every state, there are some institutions of national importance and some programs and schemes of central government is launching. So, central government provide financial assistance to the central organizations and institutions located in the states as well as the different schemes implemented by the state. Okay. Next, we will discuss about the important organizations in the field of education at the central level. You are well acquainted with the important organizations in the field of education at the central level. What are these? Central Advisory Board of Education. It is the most important advisory board of Government of India on education. We had discussed yesterday also. Then the idea of uh, this body was first put forward by the Calcutta University Commission in the year 1917-1919. Almost simultaneously, Government of India Act in 1919 made education a provincial and transport subject, limiting the control of the central government to the minimum, which we discussed today. And this changed the charter of the Government of India from that of an executive to an advisory authority in matters of education. A Central Advisory Board of Education was set up in 1920, but after a very short life was abolished in 1923. This is the recap of the today's lesson. So far as the Central Advisory Board of Education is concerned, then the the Union Minister of the Education in chairman of the board, the Central Advisory Board of Education, whose composition includes distinguished educationists from all parts of the country and the representative of the government of India, the state government, the parliament and the universities. The Central Advisory Board of Education constitute with these members. And the function of the Central Advisory Board are to advise to any educational question which may be referred to it by the government of India or by any local government, to call for information and advise accordingly regarding educational developments of special interest and value to India. Then we have University Grants Commission. What is its function? Now, to realize its aim of determining and maintaining the educational standard of the university education, the activities and the programs of the University Education Grants Commission are allocate grants to the universities and colleges out of its own funds for their development and other general purpose. UGC advises the central and state governments on disbursing grants to the universities out of the consolidated funds of India. It advises any authority on the establishment of new university or on the proposal seeking expansion of any university. It conducts NET examination, provide fellowship, junior research fellowship, and also it is said the minimum standards for Indian nationals to enter into teaching profession and research, humanities, forensic science, computer science, social science, environmental science. And next we have National Council of Educational Research and Training, that is NCRT. It serves as an academic wing of the Ministry of Education of HRD in school education. In particular, it undertakes independently or in collaboration with other organizations research in the field of school education, develops new training program, and prepares instructional materials required by the teachers and students. These are the functions of NCERT. Okay. NCERT also has established NIE, National Institute of Education, to carry out its objectives and serve as the chief institutional agency for developing research, advanced training and extension services. It has also the Central Institute of Vocational Education, then it is known as Pandit Sundarlal Sharma Cultural Institute of Vocational Education. It has been established in different parts of the country. Then we have National Council for Teacher Education, that is NCTE. It is a council for teacher education functioning since 1973. Its aim is to improve quality of teacher education in the country. NCT advises the central government and the state government on all matters concerning teacher education, including the steps to be taken to ensure adequate standards in teacher education. All the state governments represented on this council, that means NCTE, besides UGC, AICT, CAVE, Planning Commission and the NCERT, 12 members are nominated who are experts in different fields of teacher education. This council recommended the setting of state boards of teacher education in response to in which states and union territories have set up them. Council also prepared the teacher education curriculum framework as a policy document for revising curriculum for teacher education at all levels. Then we have Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, which are popularly known as central schools. Throughout India, we have these schools to provide educational facility to the children of central government employees. Then we have Navodaya Vidyalaya Samit, National Policy on Education 1986, envisaged setting of model schools, one in each district of the country. Accordingly, a scheme was formulated under which it was decided to set up co-educational residential schools, that is now called Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, in each district of the states after formulation of the policy NPE 1986. Every district has a Navodaya Vidyalaya for co-educational schools. Navodaya Vidyalayas, it is a new style of growth with identification and development of talented, bright and gifted children, predominantly attract students from rural areas. Then it is a residential school. With this, I finished unit 7 and now come to unit 8. Unit 8 is the coordination, linkage, cooperation and networking. The same thing we studied at the national level. Here we will study it at the state level. The coordination, linkage, cooperation and networking system, what does it mean? We have already studied that education in India is in the concurrent list. That means the central government as well as state government are expected to have meaningful partnership for educational development in the country. The central and state government share resources and responsibilities and exercise their powers in larger national interest. So, for example, the major responsibility for basic education lies with the state governments. However, in some states, local self-government bodies, namely the Panchayat Raj institution, in rural areas and municipalities in urban areas have also been associated with school education in order to make the system responsive to local conditions, and facilitate community participation. So now, how the center and state are related with the sharing of resource and responsibilities. Okay. So the challenge of educational planning in India is to reconcile the planning priorities of states with the national plan. So as a result, there is a lot of emphasis on decentralization. So decentralization of educational planning and management is not a new area for the government. The need of decentralization in educational management system in the country has been articulated in the educational policy since independence. But in the national policy on education introduced in 86 and the revised NOP, that is the POA 1992, that suggested extensive structural reforms for decentralization of educational planning and management. The 1986 policy recommends empowering of communities for the management of educational institutions at the local level. It also suggested establishment of an appropriate institutional framework at the district and sub-district level, such as District Board of Education and Village Education Committee, in order to ensure community participation in the management of primary education. You see how decentralization of education has been made. Do you follow my point? Then here as the state government plays a key role in implementation of educational reforms and policy, it is important to understand the role of state level bodies and their role in educational governance. So what are uh, the agencies we have already discussed in the last class, and also in the next uh, steps we also discuss all these things. And the next point is for the discussion, that is coordination at the state level. What are the agencies, how they coordinate with each other for the implementation of the programs? The here education departments, even in the early 19th century, to give due priorities to education. However, in some of the states, educational matters were attached with other departments. At the initial stage, the responsibility of education was entrusted to the Directorate of Public Instruction, DPI, with some inspectoral staff. It is nearly about 20 years or more than that. There was DPI. It was headed by Director of Public Instruction. Then there are CIE, DIE, and now this designation has been abolished. Do you hear that? No. Now you have BEO, DEO, Circle Inspector, District Inspector. These posts have been are no more exist today. At present, the government of each state and union territory has established education department to perform three main functions at all levels of education. What are the three main functions? First is regulatory, second is operational, third is directive. Yesterday also we discussed about all the three aspects at the function of education of the department. Now, these are the three organs, that is secretariat, directorate and inspectorate respectively. Yesterday we also discussed about the structure of secretariat, directorate. Aren't these? Anyone respond? Hello friends.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I am asking it because it will be easier for you to understand. Many aspects are correlated. So if you minorly listen me, then definitely you will understand many things. Then within a state, there are three levels of administration depending on the size and number of institutions which perform supervisory functions. In general, there is also a functional relationship between levels of administration and types of institution. Though the system varies from state to state. System varies from state to state, but the their administration and supervisory function and the relationship, there is coordination. Otherwise, no system can function well. Even the administrative setup of school education in some of the major states has been bifurcated into separate administrative structure for elementary as well as for secondary. In majority of the state, the traditional education department have been diversified into different department of school education and department of higher education. You remember exact these things were discussed yesterday. Then in India, in Odisha, we have three departments: school education, elementary, secondary, and also here also higher secondary. And at the school level, we have three departments. In addition to this, there is a directorate of education in every state. We notice a different pattern in different states. For example, certain states and union territories such as Arunachal Pradesh and Chandigarh have only single directorate of education to deal all the educational matters from primary to higher education level. But in other states, there are two, or in some states, there are three directorates to manage their educational affairs. And then uh, we have set up under Panchayat Raj institutions. The 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments that set local bodies at the village, block, district and municipal levels mandatory through a process of election. The 73rd and 74th amendment give power to the local and village level to, and it made the decentralization of power, and educational provision was made easy after this amendment in the local and village level, municipality as well as rural areas. Then, as per the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, education is one of the functions to be developed to the panchayats. Panchayat Raj institutions have a major role to play in promoting primary education. Now we see in each village we have primary education schools. So it has been more spread because of the involvement of panchayats. Okay. Then uh, the community is expected to closely work with panchayat in educational planning. The direct involvement of panchayat in primary education is expected to make the education system more accountable and transparent, as panchayats are in closer proximity with the community and they are answerable to the community through the Gram Sabha. So, this Panchayat Raj Act gave more freedom to the panchayats and community to make the education better implement in the uh, village level. Okay. Then in 1993, the Special Committee of the Central Advisory Board of Education formulated a framework for decentralization of educational management under management. This committee further took the process of decentralization from the district to block and village level and recommended the setting of village education committee, which is shortly called VEC. Okay, and Panchayat Samiti on education at the block level. The actual implementation of 73rd and 74th Amendment requires positive action at the executive level. So, different states also, they developed their system at the local level through the implementation of this um, panchayat level and the 73rd and 74th amendment effectively in their states. Then education up to secondary level in some states like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka is managed by Panchayat Raj institution, whereas in Gujarat and Delhi, local bodies manage elementary and primary education respectively. In Rajasthan, only rural primary education was under Rural Development and Panchayat Raj Department. Earlier, both primary and upper primary classes are being looked after by the Rural Development and Panchayat Raj Department. So, different states, they adopt Panchayat Raj. Accordingly, they develop the education system, primary education as well as secondary education in the rural areas through the development of Panchayat Raj system. Then the 73rd Amendment Act envisages states to establish a three-tier system of local governance at the village level. The intermediate level, Panchayat Samiti, and the district level, Jilla Parishad. No doubt about a significant step towards a devolution of power at the grassroots level was possible. This act covers the delegation of education, including primary and secondary school, technical training and vocational education, adult education and non-formal education, spread of literacy, cultural activity to Panchayat Raj bodies. So now, the most important aspect is that after the amendment of the Panchayat Raj system, there has been a number of development in the field of education in local bodies. Okay. Next, we have village level managing structure. The National Policy on Education 1986 stated that local communities through appropriate bodies will be assigned a major role in programs of school improvement. The Program of Action 1992 stated that a village education committee comprising of not more than 15 members with representative from parents, panchayat, cooperatives, women, scheduled caste, tribes will look into the overall management of all education program at village level. So Panchayat Raj institution opens up the facility to construct village education committee and it took the responsibility of overall management of education at the village level. So the powers of VEC is to visualize by the Central Advisory Board of Education Committee included visit to school, checking of attendance and other register, recommending annual budget, undertaking maintenance and repair of buildings. Thus, some states have gone for the establishment of quasi-legal bodies such as GEC and School Management Development Committee to oversee governance of education at the local level. So, for the betterment of the implementation of the education program at the village level, many committees they formed and to facilitate education at the local level. Next, we have other projects like the Lok Jumbis has had a positive effect on the empowerment of locally elected people. It has been possible after 73rd and 74th Amendment. The local people were benefited by Lokjumbis project, and the village education committee VECs carefully formed and trained through environmental building activities in the Lokjumbis program, and they are actively involved in school matters. Then another project, that is Shiksha Karmi project, has constituted VEC in 2000 villages to promote community involvement in primary education and encourage village level planning. Very good things were done after framing VEC. Then the role of VEC is to mobilize resources for maintenance, repair and construction of school infrastructure. Then the positive impact of Lokjumbis and Shiksha Karmi project focused on supporting the teachers and the students by involving the village community in taking responsibility for all educational activities of the village school, in serving as a demonstration of how deeply rooted problems of education in India can be addressed. So now you see that the central projects are very effectively implemented at the local level by forming village education committee. So now you see how decentralization of power has implemented the program successfully in each state and at the very remote areas of the nation. Then next is we have village education committee play an important role in overseeing the functioning of primary school, district primary school council and the state board of primary education. The next aspect is that ensuring linkage and networking, the role of non-government organizations, NGOs. Linkage and networking and the role of non-government organization. Do you think that non-government organization has vital role in spreading education? Anyone? What is your doubt? It is, the answer is right. Yes, non-governmental organization play very prominent role in spreading education. I have already told you in NIOS at the state level how NGOs were providing education to the primary students, and they were also linked with NIOS, and they were getting joint certificates. Yesterday I discussed all these things. Next, the NGOs in India were on the fringe of educational planning. The government in the past decade has encouraged the role of NGOs at all levels in the social sector to promote participatory development. The government views NGOs as partners for attaining the goals of education for all. So you remember IFA, the goal of education for all, IFA, to provide education to all children, all people of the nation. Only government institutions are not enough. So the NGOs also carried out the responsibility to spread the scheme, the programs, that is education for all. Furthermore, the enactment of 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment has also significantly enhanced role, not only the role of local bodies and the community, but also the divergent organization in civil society in the efforts towards universalization of primary education. Non-governmental organization, that is NGO, have emerged as a crucial contributor in the field of development, the field of education in the development of the country. So they contribute extensively in social development programs in rural as well as urban areas. You know that NGOs perform many social activities. There are many rehabilitation centers for the children, for the old persons. They have developed by NGOs. And then there certain many NGOs are there. They provide education to the orphans. Orphanage have been developed by NGOs. Then in general, NGO are sought after by the government and donor agencies for their flexibility, cost effectiveness, and ability to innovate. Then the NGOs have succeeded in establishing a better rapport with the local communities and getting them more effectively involved in the education of their children. Then the local NGOs have attempted to facilitate their participation in decision making in village education committee. NGOs mostly make decisions related to administration and school maintenance. Then in most of the cases, the participation of NGO and community has been confined to implementation of various educational programs and extending access. Community and NGOs, they link together and help each other in implementation of various educational programs and extend the access. Then we will discuss about the contribution of NGO. What NGOs do? Mobilizing resources at micro level and macro level. Infrastructure development in different pockets of society. They organize teaching and also training. Monitoring and facilitating existing facilities. They also contribute to research and development, provide alternative curriculum or modifying curriculum for disadvantaged. So the state NGO partnership in educational governance has emerged a strategy of reaching out to the unreached section of the society and providing them education. Reach the unreached. What does it mean? Unreached are there who are deprived from many facilities. They are out of mainstream society. There are many people in our society, they are far away from the civilized society. They do not know what is going on in daily life, what privileges government has made for them. Nothing is known to them. So NGO provide the facility to the unreached. Unreached section of the society get many ideas. The government provisions are communicated to them through NGO. NGO plays a vital role to provide facilities to the people living in remote areas, the weaker sections, and also the people who were out of the mainstream society. Then we will focus on the other supporting directorates, departments, and advisory bodies. Most of the things are known to you. In previous classes, we discussed. The different states and union territories also have number of other supporting directorates and departments for discharging different types of responsibilities in education. Then we will discuss here the responsibilities of other departments and directorates. Different states and union territories have a number of supporting directorates for discharging different types of responsibilities in education. Almost all states have Directorate of Mass Education or the Directorate of Adult Education and Non-Formal Education. In some states and union territories, adult and non-formal education is looked after by Directorate of School Education. Particularly in MP, Directorate of Panchayat and Social Welfare is looked after by the Directorate of School Education. Besides, we have education department. Some other department also manage educational institution. In case of Odisha, the welfare department is concerned with the education of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. We have welfare department that look after the development of the SC and STs. The main function of the department is opening of school in tribal areas, arrangement of incentives, inspection and supervision of schools, etc. Then we have to discuss about advisory boards and bodies. Advisory bodies constituted by the statutes which have their own part to play to advise the education department for help in the implementation of the educational programs. The National Policy on Education 1986 proposed to create District Board of Education to coordinate educational activities at district level, and presently there is state level advisory board which covers higher, secondary and primary education of all districts of the state and its various components. The advisory board of education in different states, they have their own advisory board of education. And in Gujarat, Gujarat Education Advisory Board, Gujarat State Council of Higher Education, Gujarat Secondary Education Board. In this way, they have the board for different departments. Then this Central Advisory Board of Education at the national level, some states have set up state education advisory boards to advise the states on policy matters. On the pattern of NCERT, almost all states have established SCERT. Then all the states have two types of academic institutions. Then conventional institutions set up at state such as Board of School Education, English Language Teaching Institute, textbook or publication board working under the administrative control of the state education departments. And the other one is institutions set up in the state under some centrally sponsored scheme of government of India during post-independence period, such as State Institute of Education, State Council of Educational Research and Training, that is SCRT, then District Resource Unit, District Institute of Education and Training, DIET, State Institute of Educational Management and Training, then State Institute of Science Education, State Institute of Educational Technology. Then we have State Publication or Textbook Board. These boards are set up in many states under the State Department of Education to promote advancement of education, particularly at elementary and secondary education through production of high quality textbook and other instruction materials, and to undertake evaluation and research for improvement of school curricula. Then we have state boards of school education. Besides such support units, a chain of institutions, namely boards of secondary education and higher secondary council, came into being to conduct examination at the end of class 10 and class 12. We also have two boards Board of Secondary Education, that is conducting 10th board exam, and CHSE, that is conducting examination for the 12th students. Then next is, that is the prime responsibilities of the state boards of school education are to prescribe school curriculum, second, to conduct school secondary and senior secondary level examination, and the next one is accord permission and recognition to secondary or senior secondary schools in the state. Then we have State Council of Educational Research and Training, which is abbreviated as SCERT. So during the 60s, State Institute of Education were established in various states to play an important role in the academic management of states' education program. The functions of these are improvement in the quality of education and teacher training at elementary stage. Next function is improvement in the system of inspection and supervision. Third one is the conducting research and innovation in elementary education. And the last is coordination between the state and the NCERT. The scope of work of SIs include in-service training of elementary school teachers, teacher education and supervision, reviewing and revising school curriculum and syllabus, providing extension services, improvement of science and environment education, and the like. So, at present, we see in almost all states have SCERT. The most important aspects is that the main role of SCERT is a counterpart of NCERT at the state level. It plays several functions to fulfill different objectives. These are to bring about qualitative improvement in school education, to coordinate program of state level institutions, to conduct various in-service training programs for school teachers, supervisors, and teacher educators, to undertake and promote research, innovations, and experimentation in various aspects of school education. And the last one, to develop, monitor, and evaluate education program at school level, including elementary teacher education. Then we have English language teaching institutes in many states. English language teaching institutes were set up for the improvement of teaching as English second language in schools. The ELTIs provide training to school level English teachers in modern techniques of teaching English language and the preparation of English teaching material. So the next is the diets. Its function include the providing pre-service and in-service education to elementary school teachers, providing training and continuing education to non-formal and adult education instructors and supervisors, and also providing the services to resource and learning centers to teachers and instructors. And the last is to conduct action research and experiments. Then these are the functions of District Institute of Education and Training. Then we will focus on the State Institute of Educational Management and Training. Besides SCRT, the idea of setting of State Institute of Educational Planning and Administration in the model NUPA, National University of Educational Planning and Administration, was developed on the basis of nationwide consultation. So, The State Institute of Educational Management and Training were set up to ensure effective implementation of DPP initiatives and interventions by creating capacity at different levels, installing an objective and systematic educational management information system, and conducting and sponsoring utility-oriented research and evaluation studies. The main function of this institution is to organize training orientation workshops for educational planners at the state, district, block, and cluster village level functionaries of other departments such as women and child development, tribal welfare department. In this way, these are the functions of State Institute of Educational Management and Training. Then we have different states have developed this, and this institution has properly functioned, has been implemented. Then we will discuss about the state councils of higher education. The state councils of higher education has been established in different states. The function is to prepare coordinated programs of development of higher education in each state. The State Council of Higher Education advise the state government in matters relating to higher education in the state and oversees its development with prospective planning and for matters connected with these. It is primarily a coordinating and liaising body between the University Grants Commission and state government and the universities. It is a linking body between the UGC, the state government, and the universities. It is the general duty of the council is to coordinate and determine standards in institutions of higher education or the research and scientific and technical institutions in accordance with the guidelines issued by UGC from time to time. It suggests remedial actions when necessary. It also involves prospective plans for development of higher education in the state. It also forwards the developmental programs of universities and colleges in the state to the University Grants Commission along with its comments and recommendations. In our state, we have the Higher Education Council. State open schools and state open universities, we have discussed in Unit 3, Block 1. So, the National Institute of Open Schooling, NIOS, offers its programs in various regional languages such as Urdu, Marathi, Telugu, Bengali, besides Hindi and English. It provides an effort to expand the OLS, National Learning System, and fulfill national goals. Then, in different states of our nation, NIOS is functioning. NIOS has a pivotal role to play in the promotion and development of open schooling in the country. It also provides professional and technical support to states in order to set up and develop state open schools, particularly with regional medium. NIOS permits transfer of credits of students from different boards and also from different state open schools. Then there are we know the IGNOU. You are the students of IGNOU. It is a university at the national level established at the center, and 30 more open universities have been established at the state level, and now the number has increased. So, in Hyderabad, the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Baba Saheb Ambed Open University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, Bardhaman Mahavir Open University, Kota, Rajasthan, Karnataka State Open University, Karnataka, KK, Hedik State Open University, Guwahati, Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Bhoj Open University, Madhya Pradesh, Pandit Sundarlal Sharma Open University, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu Open University, Tamil Nadu, Nalanda Open University, Patna, Bihar, Netaji Subhash State University, Kolkata, West Bengal, UP, Rajarshri Tandon Open University, Allahabad, Uttar Pradesh, Uttaranchal Open University, Haldwani, Uttaranchal, Yashwant Rai Chauhan, Maharashtra Open University, Nasik, Maharashtra. Likewise, now many open universities are also opening. Both national and state open universities have been funded by the central and state government and function in coordination with other universities, colleges, private institutes, etc. in the state and the center. In addition to this, the states of India also have state university. State universities are run by each state. So far we discussed about the linkage coordination of different institutions and the state and center coordination in responsibilities and financial assistance. So let us sum up. Different states and union territories in India have established their education departments. In majority of the state, the traditional education departments have been diversified into different departments like Department of School Education, Department of Higher Education. In addition to this, there is Directorate of Education in every state. Some states and union territories have only single Directorate of Education to deal with educational matters from primary to higher education level. Some states such as Kerala, Madhya Pradesh have two main directorates that are one of school education and other for higher education. Some states such as Punjab, Haryana, and these states have three separate directorates for higher education, school education, and primary or elementary education. According to the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, education is one of the functions to be devolved to involve panchayats. Hence, Panchayat Raj institutions have a major role to play in promoting primary education. It was discussed in different aspects how local and municipality area as well as the village uh, area have been facility for promotion of education and educational improvement of the people in that area. It is also envisaged that Panchayat will make provision of primary education while addressing the issues of equal access and quality of educational facilities, and the community is expected to closely work with Panchayat in educational planning. Then we also discussed about uh, on the pattern of NCRT. Almost all states have developed SCRT. In the states, there are two categories of institutions, that is conventional institutions set up at the state, such as Board of School Education, English Language Teaching Institute, Textbook or Publication Board, working under the administrative control of the State Education Department. In addition to that, there are institutions set up in the states under some centrally sponsored scheme of Government of India during post-independence period, such as State Institute of Education, State Council of Educational Research and Training, District Resource Unit, District Institute of Education and Training, State Institute of Educational Management and Training, State Institute of Science Education, State Institute of Educational Technology, etc. The state board handles curriculum and syllabi, while the district councils handle teacher appointments and discipline in accordance with prescribed norms. Under each SCRT, there are district institute of education and training, and the objective of SCRT was to bring qualitative improvement in school education, conduct in-service training programs for teachers, supervisors, and teacher educators. And also we discussed about the function of the State Institute of Educational Management and Training, how it organizes workshops and training programs for the planners at state, district, block and cluster and village level. And also we discussed about that the the Panchayat Raj institutions are promoting education at the village level, and the VEC and SMC to oversee governance of education at the local level, uh, and how decentralization of power and responsibilities has made the education more effective, and effective implementation of programs and policies of the national the central government has been properly implemented, we have also discussed. Now this is all about today's class for 2 units, unit 7 as well as unit 8. Thank you all. Shall we leave or any queries? If any doubt, feel free to ask. Hello friends. Any
No,
doubt?
ma'am. Thank you. No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you all. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. we will again meet each other. Thank you. Good night.